CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Agricultural cooperation is a key element of the strategic partnership between China and Africa, and it's going to play a highlighting role in the upcoming 2018 Forum on China-Africa Cooperation Summit. Africa has about 60% of the world's arable land, but it still faces issues of food insecurity and poverty. What is the best way forward? We've traveled this week to Morogoro, Tanzania, to bring you some insights to these questions. I am Liu Feifei. Welcome to Talk Africa. Matego Wasimba is a village in the Morogoro district of Tanzania, where over the past 5 years, a joint agricultural project between China and Tanzania has resulted in increased maize yields for the local communities. Here is their story. Maize farming is the backbone of Matego Wasimba, a small village approximately 170 kilometers west of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. The soils here are fertile. However, for a long time, low crop yields kept the farmers at a subsistence level. In 2012, a team of Chinese experts started to apply new farming techniques with local communities. Using marked ropes to control spaces and higher yield local seeds, the project mobilized farmers to switch towards a more labor-intensive approach in maize cultivation. Professor Li Xiaoyun from China Agricultural University is one of the pioneers of the project. His journey here started in 1990 when he was doing his postgraduate field studies, and 23 years later, the professor returned to start the project, determined to help local farmers with a lifetime's learning.
Many years ago, the farmer used to plant maize in the way that they find the way, in the way that they feel like this, like this, like this, like this. It's not really systematically like this. We designed for the new plant density, for the spacing for 75 centimeter, and for the plant distance for 30 to 35. It's very simple because this doesn't need fertilizer, doesn't need irrigation water because it's still rain-fed agriculture, but by increase the plant density significantly have actually increased the yield. This farmer, start 2013 to 2014 year, and the first year he got 25 bags per acre, and before that time, and he had only 5 bags.
In Africa, 80% of the agricultural production comes from smallhold farmers. Rural women like Veronica Lugano are the main labor force toiling the soil. As one of the early participants in the program, Veronica's hope was to make a better life for her family.
I remember when I was farming in 2013, I only got 3 sacks of maize. At that time though, those who were a part of the China farming project got a high yield in 2014, so I was convinced to join the project. After that, I was successful and got many bags of maize. From our previous farming method using only hoes and our hands and without using proper spacing, I was successful in getting 18 bags of maize last year.
According to Zeno Asi, Senior Agricultural Officer in Morogoro District, the joint maize project has brought about real positive economic impact for the local farmers.
This project, in fact, has brought some economic changes, particularly for those who are following the practices which we are training them. What I can say that their livelihood has changed.
There are about 200 families here in Matego Wasimba. So far, more than half have voluntarily joined the program. And with planned replications in 8 additional villages across Morogoro, sustainable food security and improved economic prospects are becoming a real possibility for thousands of small-scale farmers. Recently, a community learning center has been built here in Mtego Wasimba with the support of the Chinese and Tanzanian governments. Joining me now in front of this learning center, where farmers are getting an opportunity to be trained in best practices in agriculture, is Madam Ambassador Wang Ke, the Chinese ambassador to Tanzania. Ambassador Wang, as I understand it, the Chinese-Tanzanian cooperation in agriculture has a very long history. Can you share some of the highlights with us?
Ever since the independence of Tanzania, Chinese government provided assistance to set up the farms, rice farms, farming tool factory, sugar factory, etc., which contributed a lot to the building up of the agriculture foundation for this country, and also a great support to the newly independent country of Tanzania. And over the past years, the cooperation actually diversified. It included not only the grants by the Chinese government, but also a training, technical cooperation, and investment by Chinese companies. For example, Chinese government provided assistance to set up a agricultural demonstration center here in Morogoro, in Morogoro area.
Well, that's very fascinating indeed. So not only is the history a long one, but it's also very diversified. Now, with respect to this joint maize project here in Morogoro, it's getting replicated and scaled up. What do you think is unique about this particular project, and why has it been so successful?
I think that there are three uniqueness. First is a new modality of cooperation. It's a tripartite collaboration. The Chinese University of Agriculture from China, and the local government of Morogoro from Tanzania, and the individual farmers from the rural area of this region. And secondly, I think that uniqueness is a highly feasible option, because this kind of is called a maize labor intensified system. So it has the uniqueness or advantage of less input and very quick return and easy popularization. So I think that is very suitable to the needs of the local people, local government, and local farmer, and it can achieve very quick effect. The third one is it's a good practice to turn Chinese experiences into Africa's practice. You know that China, we have a lot of practical technique which can be applied into Africa to tell or to teach or to train the local farmers with a very simple technique where what they can benefit. One is that the productivity is increased. The other one is their income is increased. A third one is that the poverty is reduced.
And I suppose that's why it's been so successful. Now, looking beyond just here in Morogoro and looking at what's upcoming this year, which is the 6th Summit of FOCOG, how do you think the FOCOG will provide a platform for scaling up of similar projects across Africa, and especially in Tanzania?
2.5 years ago, when the Global Summit of FOCAC convened, President Xi Jinping announced a 10-point cooperation plan, which the cooperation in agricultural modernization is included. And looking back, we have seen a lot of strides have been made. We have the assistance, we have the technical cooperation, we have the training capacity, we have the investment. So I think that, looking ahead, China and Africa is going to convene another summit in Beijing this September. I think that based on what we have learned, we have summed up, we have achieved, I think that the leaders from China and Africa, they will sit together, they will discuss, they will reach new consensus and work out the new measures, to further upgrade or promote the cooperation between China and Africa in agriculture, particular to a new height to benefit the two countries and two people, especially the development of agriculture in Africa.
Well, that's fantastic. We'll look forward to the outcomes of the sixth summit. And in the meanwhile, thank you so much for your time and your insights. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll be joined by a panel of experts to further discuss China-Africa cooperation, particularly here in Tanzania. Stay tuned.
China Global Television Network, from broadcast centers in Beijing, Washington and Nairobi. A unique global perspective. 6 channels and a video content service. News when you want it and where you want it. On TV screens, websites, mobile platforms and social media. CGTN. See the difference.
Welcome back to Talk Africa, and now to share some further insights on agricultural cooperation between China and Tanzania, we're joined by a panel of esteemed experts. Professor Sun Qixin, who is the president of the China Agricultural University and a member of the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress. Mr. Clifford Tandari, who is the Regional Administrative Secretary of Morogoro, and Professor Li Xiaoyun, the Dean of the China Institute for South-South Cooperation in Agriculture at the CAU. Gentlemen, welcome again to Talk Africa. Let me start with you, Professor Sun. Now, the China Agricultural University is preeminent in the field of agriculture. What was it about Morogoro that appealed to you and the university that you wanted to establish the demonstration site here?
Yeah. China, we already make a very big success in agricultural development in the last 40 years. But African countries, like in Tanzania, still in the urgent need to promote its agricultural productivity. So 3 years ago, my team, headed by Professor Li Xiaoyun, they visited this area. They found there's a huge need of technology support. Then the university decided we should do something to promote China-African agricultural cooperation by promoting agricultural productivity through the demonstration site. So this is why we choose this area to put an effort of teams working together to make a demonstration project. So we are happy to see for the past several years, the project have been successful in terms of the local productivity increased a lot, and local government enjoys very much. So we are very encouraged by this success. We will be continuing our effort in the future.
And Mr. Tandari, from your local government perspective, what has been the relevance and the impact of having this joint maize project here in Morogoro?
Actually, we thank the Chinese friends that through their technology and the management that they brought in with this project, productivity has gone more than double, has increased more than twice. Farmers used to get 7 bags per hectare. Now they can go up to 17 bags per acre. So you find that productivity has gone up and the profitability of the farmers has gone up and their incomes have gone up and their impact on poverty, both food poverty and income poverty, has been significant.
And I suppose, Professor Li, that's the uniqueness of this project, is that it's making real on-the-ground impacts. When you initiated this project, because you've been with the project since the inception, what was your vision for it, and to what extent has it been achieved?
You know, the Tanzania, actually in Tanzania, more than 70% of the cereal production is maize, and over 40% of our land actually is used for producing maize. So maize is extremely important. When I came to the field 4 years ago, I came to the field and I found that the productivity of the maize at farm level is very, very low. And therefore I thought, okay, through the diagnosis, and I found it is actually great potential start from very simple technology. Very simple technology means that to increase, just simply increase plant density. And increase plant density by using your hand. Because it's not possible to immediately get fertilizer available with money. It's not possible to get all kinds of irrigation available immediately. So we cannot expect to get yield increase by 20 times immediately. But still, it is very possible to increase one times and twice. And actually, we have been doing this for last 4 years, and the yield increased from averagely 5 to 7 bags per acre now to the 15, 17, even 25 bags per acre.
So perhaps the secret is using realistic methods to get real impact on the ground. Mr. Tandari, from an economic perspective, Tanzania actually has experienced relatively high economic growth with an average 7% GDP growth in recent years. However, in the agricultural sector, the growth has only been about 4 to 5%. Is that growth sufficient for lasting improvement in poverty reduction?
No, that growth is not sufficient. If Tanzania needs to move out of poverty, we need a growth of 10% and above. And the more so growth that happens in agriculture. Because it's in the agriculture sector where majority of our populace is. About 70% depend on the livelihood from the agricultural sector. So unless we do something on agriculture, to raise the growth of agriculture, which has never grown beyond 5%, if we can make agriculture grow above 5%, then definitely we shall have an impact on poverty reduction in Tanzania.
And Professor Lee, I suppose we already talked about this. I mean, with the maize intensification system, it will enhance the yield. The other thing that we talked about with respect to this project is that it also helps to bridge the gap in population growth.
Yeah, because in Tanzania, the economic growth at 7% average over the last 15 years, as you said. And agriculture grows about 3.5% a year annually. And the problem is that the population grew very high. Population grew 2.9%. This means that taking into consideration of population growth rate and agricultural growth rate's margin is very little. So that explains why the economic growth and the agricultural growth do not necessarily produce poverty reduction. So the trials we've been doing here is try to produce way that agricultural growth can be promoted at the level of productivity improvement rather than the area expansion, because agricultural production, maize production in this country, in this region, in Morogoro region, and in the country-wide, actually are largely due to our area expansion. So that means that the labor productivity has never been greatly produced. So we need to produce this robust. We need to produce robust to link growth and poverty reduction. So that is why we emphasize to see the labor productivity.
Professor Sun, much has been said about how in recent years China has managed to increase agricultural output and lift hundreds of millions of people out of food insecurity and poverty. Can you tell us how China managed to do that?
Yeah, actually it's a miracle for Chinese agriculture and in the world. So I'm thinking, if you look past 40 years, there are several lines of evidence we can summarize. First of all, technology innovation. This makes China's agriculture output increase very significantly. Secondly, the investment for the rural infrastructure investment. This also makes a huge contribution to the increase of agricultural productivity. And thirdly, the reorganization of agricultural production systems and other rural reforms. This also brought new huge impact on the agricultural production systems and with high efficiency to make a better agricultural production systems. So I think these three major components are most important. And lastly, education. Nowadays, if you go to the field, there's some farmer experts. They know very much about agriculture technologies. So rural education also make a very significant contribution to the agricultural miracle.
And I want to talk a little bit about that later, because I know you have an education exchange program with the local university. From the Morogoro local government perspective, what additional policies are you looking at to support these types of projects and the local farmers?
Is to improve extension services. We want extension officers to be very close to farmers, so that they give them the latest technology, they give them the management techniques, the crop husbandry, the animal husbandry, so that farmers could produce profitably, and the farmers could see agriculture as a sector that will improve them and lift them out of poverty. So extension services is the area that we want to put emphasis on.
Professor Sun, you've already touched on this from an academic exchange program. You said that education is very important. Tell us more about what you're talking about in terms of education helping to reduce poverty and what the Chinese Agricultural University is doing.
Yeah, in terms of education and their significance in poverty elevation, this is a big issue actually, but it's really in urgent need to put more effort in teaching and educating the local farmers with new technologies, new skills, and new knowledges. So poverty elevation, you have to encourage the people by themselves to do through their own effort to make more incomes. So if they get more better education, better skilled, then this makes these things much easier. So in China, for last several years, Chinese government and the Chinese universities put a lot of effort to teaching, training local peoples. I think this is also a good example for the Sino-China-African cooperation in agriculture. Put a lot of effort in training and teaching local farmers, local specialists, to be well trained, well equipped with the new technologies, new knowledges. This will be a big component for the success of agriculture.
It's like what they say, it's better to teach someone how to fish instead of giving them a fish. That's a sustainable way to move forward, right? So, Professor Lee, it's undeniable that your demonstration project has been successful. That's why it's being replicated. Surely your team faced some challenges along the way. Can you share some of the challenges?
We feel good challenge in terms of labor, because this is very, the condition, the weather condition is really, really hot during the growing season. You start planting season, it's raining during the daytime it's very hot. So therefore, this technology is very intensive, very labor intensive, and there are women dominated practice. So you expect women spend hours for waiting and for seeing and for this one, compared before they spend a little time. So that is a huge challenge we have to see. And the labor demand increased, and many farmers hire labor. So we have to see the balance economically. We have to see the really economic meanings for this. So we are in the process to really discuss with farmers how we could look at that kind of issues. This is a great challenge we face now, labor issue.
Ultimately, the incentive for that maybe is the economic result.
Now we have to get higher yield to compensate the labor cost.
I see. Professor Sun, there are other types of challenges. Farming in general is very challenging because it's unpredictable. There are droughts, there are floods. It's all exacerbated by climate change. How can the farmer today protect themselves against these unpredictabilities?
Yeah, this is a changing world, and the climate change also affects agriculture very significantly. So like drought and even high temperature can be a damage to the crop production. So we do need a new technology also. New technology can be adapted to the changing climate. So this is all the challenge for the technology innovation.
Well, Mr. Tandari, Has that been done here in agriculture? Have you initiated the process of some government policies geared towards protecting the farmer in a state of uncertainty with the climate change and whatnot?
Actually, as a matter of policy, we're thinking of, the government is thinking of ensuring farmers against disasters, natural disasters like drought and the floods. But then also looking for friendly technologies that could help to address the challenges of unfavorable weather. So it's indeed a challenge, and we need to have adaptive technologies that will adapt to changing environment from time to time. So that's why we call for friends from China.
And more help is perhaps on the way because, as we probably all know, the 6th summit of the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation is about to take place in September in Beijing, I believe. And it is the strategic blueprint for the partnership between China and Africa. What can you share with us that we can expect in terms of agriculture?
Yeah, actually, this project actually is our demonstration to show how Chinese agriculture technology and experience can be shared in Africa, like in Tanzania. So, you know, China-African cooperation agriculture will be a big impact for the relationships. So we strongly believe in agricultural sectors, there's much in need to promote more cooperation in technology transfer, demonstration, education, investment, and also, nowadays we are increasing productivity. Next, we need to go one step further for processing of the actual productivity. This will be the value-added new industry. So I'm expecting with these coming days, Sino-African agricultural collaboration will have a big potential to expanding the area and to use new channels to expanding cooperation in the future.
And Mr. Tantari, lastly to you, from a local Tanzanian Morogoro perspective, what are you hoping the 6th summit of FOCAC will bring?
The previous one, FOCAC, that was held in South Africa 2 years ago, was mostly focused on industrialization. Now, our expectation for the Beijing summit is to invest much more into agriculture and the rural sector, because it's agriculture that provides inputs for industries. So in order for us to have successful industries, you know, our president, His Excellency President John Pombe Magufuli, Doctor, is talking much more of industrialization. So for us, Africa, and Tanzania in particular, for the industrialization agenda to be of success, we need FOCAC to focus much more into agricultural investment.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen, that is all the time that we have time for in this edition of Talk Africa, but a big thank you to all of you for being on our panel. Professor Sun Qi-xin, the president of the China Agricultural University, Mr. Clifford Tandari, the regional administrative secretary of Morogoro, and Professor Li Xiaoyun, the dean of the China Institute for South-South Cooperation in Agriculture. Thank you again for joining this edition of Talk Africa. I am Liu Feifei, and thanks for watching. You can join us online in the discussion forum on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Until next time, thank you.